What's going on, everybody, and welcome to my review for the live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch. This is Disney's second live-action remake of the year, coming off of the cataclysmic disaster that was Snow White just a couple of months ago. I'm sure many of you have, but if you have not seen the original Lilo and Stitch, this is the same basic premise and setup here. You have a runaway alien who crash lands on Hawaii. Where there, he gets mistaken for a dog and is adopted by a lonely Hawaiian girl named Lilo, and together they form a bond that can not only possibly save his life, but also help her keep her life together that is seemingly on the verge of completely falling apart. Just to give you guys some perspective, I absolutely love Lilo and Stitch. I was 5 years old when the original movie came out, so I was the perfect age group for it. Definitely the target audience, and I love the original movie. I like the straight-to-DVD sequels. I even really enjoy the TV series that spun off from the original movie. So anything involving Lilo and Stitch, I have always been a massive fan of. If I was a Disney adult, this apartment would be covered in Stitch decor. Luckily, I'm not, but no judgment if you are. So when this remake got announced and we started to inch closer and closer towards the release date, I had a lot of mixed emotions for it. On one hand, I am fully aware of the track record that these Disney live action remakes have. I haven't loved any of them, and I can count on two fingers how many of them I've even remotely enjoyed, and so I can't help but be pessimistic about any of them when they come out. But on the other hand, being that I am such a massive Stitch fan, I couldn't help but be at least a little excited for this remake, and honestly the trailers were doing a really good job at winning me over. But just like with all of Disney's live action remakes, the question that they need to answer for me is, what are you going to do different that justifies your own existence? Because I don't think that there's a version of the Stitch character that they could give me that I won't enjoy on a character level. It's what surrounds the character of Stitch that is what's going to have to really work and come together for me to understand why we got this remake and for me to enjoy the remake, because otherwise I would just rather watch the original. If you're not going to do something that's special or different enough with this remake, then why are we even here? So did this Disney live action remake just end up being another Disney live action remake, or did they actually pull something off this time around with Lilo and Stitch? Well, before I get into that, I'd like to ask that while you're here, go ahead and consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel as well for more movie reviews. Get down in the comments below and tell me all of your thoughts on Lilo and Stitch, both remake and original. I'd love to read everything you guys have to say. Now let's get into the review. So starting with the positives, and this movie is absolutely carried by its title characters, Lilo and Stitch. That may be a bad sign for what's to come later in this video, but starting with the Stitch side of things, I think the character model for him is fantastic. I've thought that ever since they first revealed the look of Stitch in the trailers. The CGI is some of the best I've seen in one of these Disney live action remakes, and I appreciate that they kept it really accurate to the source material of the original movie. He's still that little fluffy ball of fun and chaos that we have known and loved him to be for all of these years, and getting to see him unleash all of that chaos in a live action setting was a fresh new look on the eyes, and they do some really good and fun things with all of that. I also think that because this version of Stitch is made with CGI, it aided them a lot as the movie progresses and we start to see that change that happens within Stitch, where he starts to become much more sincere and caring for his newfound family, because they're just more accurately able to animate him. You can really get the tears in his eyes and he can emote properly, and I think it really just made this version of the character even more lovable. In fact, I think this version of Stitch was more lovable than the original version of the character, and I think the fact that they were able to bring Chris Sanders back as the voice, he voiced Stitch in the original movie and he's back for this remake, I think it helped put the character even more over for me. I also have to give a ton of praise to his counterpart and title partner Lilo, played by Maya Kaloa. This amazingly is her first acting performance ever, which is crazy to think about, and she does an absolutely phenomenal job. Going into this movie, Lilo was actually what I was the most nervous about, because child actors tend to really annoy me very easily. I don't particularly like kids in real life, and so those same feelings tend to apply to them in film as well. It's just a part of my brain that for whatever reason I just can't shut off, even in a children's movie where I've already accepted that I'm going to be seeing a lot of them. But she absolutely blew me away with her performance in this movie, and I think she depicted this character as accurately as probably anyone else could. She was super sweet and adorable, but also had that troublemaker side to her that's absolutely essential to the Lilo character. And the duo of her and Stitch, I think, were done flawlessly in this remake. And given that my expectations for this movie were so low, all I could hope for is that they would do justice to the title characters. And I think they absolutely did that in this remake. And like I said, they absolutely carried for the entirety of this film. Getting to the negatives for this movie now, and this is where things get a little complicated for the review because obviously all movie reviews are subjective. You should definitely see a movie and form your own opinion. But for a movie like this, depending on what your age is, that will change drastically what you do and don't like about this movie. And so things I say here may sound a bit nitpicky, or it will simply just be things that you don't care about because you are not as attached to the original movie as I am. Now, for the most part, I did enjoy this film, but pretty much all of that enjoyment came from all the mileage that I was able to get out of Lilo and Stitch. Everything else about the movie, I have quite a few problems with, and really it comes down to the other characters within the movie. I think Nani is a severely weakened character in this, whereas in the original movie, you can tell she's a sister that's trying her best. She absolutely loves Lilo and wants to be involved in every aspect of her life and do everything for her that she can. But in this movie, there's hints of that, but there's also a lot of moments in the movie where it feels like Nani couldn't be bothered to deal with Lilo and actually sees her as a burden on her life. And that's just not a part or a version of the character that I really enjoyed seeing here. They also add a few new characters to the mix here, and in order for them to be enjoyable, it comes at a price. You have the character of Tutu here, played by Amy Hill, who I found her enjoyable enough. She's a character actor that I've always enjoyed seeing in things, but in order for her to succeed as a character, it completely weakens the character of David, who is a pre-existing character that I feel you honestly could have removed from this movie and it wouldn't have made any of a difference. Instead of Cobra Bubbles being a former CIA agent turned social worker, he's just a CIA agent, and they split the social worker part of his character off into a new character. And so it's another example of, in order for them to create a new character, they have to severely weaken a pre-existing character. And I don't think that's just a good way to execute a remake, in my opinion. But where I feel they really fumbled the bag in the character department are with the characters of Jumba and Pleakley, played by Zach Galifianakis and Billy Magnuson, which, by the way, all these critiques are on the characters, not the actors and actresses performing them. I think everyone performs their role really well. I just have a lot of problems with the writing for their characters. I just want to make that clear. But yeah, I was not a big fan at all of what they do with Jumba and Pleakley in this movie. They're not even really aliens for most of the movie. In the original, in order for them to blend in, they just throw on these wacky human disguises like fake mustache, wigs, dresses, stuff like that. But in this, they just clone two regular looking dudes and they just look like them for most of the runtime. And I kind of understand why they did that. It might have been a little hard to pull off the believability of them being out in public when they so clearly look like aliens. But for me personally, I think I would have been able to suspend my disbelief on that aspect of their characters. I think it would have been funny to see in the live action them walking around amongst normal humans looking as ridiculous as they do. I don't think I would have been real stern on that. Like, how can they not tell that they're aliens? How can they pull this off? It's so not believable. I don't see myself being like that. I don't think that would have been my reaction. So I would have preferred they just kept them as aliens in human disguises for the remake like they were in the original. On top of that, the comedy that we were getting from this duo just was not landing for me at all. It was very one note and generic and kind of just too try hard in my opinion. I didn't enjoy it at all. They also just completely erase any arc that Jumba has for his character. It was bad enough that we weren't getting any General Gantu in this movie, but for them to butcher the other remaining significant alien characters in this movie as much as they do was just really, really unfortunate to see. My last critique here that I felt after watching this movie is that though this remake has about a 20-minute longer runtime, it feels like there's less in here than there was in the original. There are scenes from the original that are either changed for the worse or just completely erased here in the remake. For example, my favorite moment from the original film is when Lilo teaches Stitch about Elvis. That's just completely not in here for the remake. There is some Elvis music here and there, and they do try to throw you a bone towards the end before the credits roll, but that wasn't satisfying for me at all. And again, that does kind of play into how attached I am to the original, and that my favorite scene from the original not being in this, it bothers me maybe more than it bothers you. But if you are someone that does have an attachment for that original film, you may be disappointed with a lot of the changes they made or just erasing they do of scenes from the original. Also, the ending for this movie is way, way weaker than the animated ending. I don't know why they changed it as much as they did, but it was a very flat ending and it did not come to a satisfying conclusion at all, in my opinion. Overall, guys, I would say this was a solid movie. It was good enough. I didn't love it like I hoped I would, but I think they executed the title characters to near perfection. It was just everything else around them I don't think was executed nearly as well, and it really held this movie back from reaching the heights that I think it could have. If they could have tightened some things up here and there, I think this very easily could have been the best Disney live action remake we have gotten thus far. I know that's not a very high bar, but it's definitely one this movie could have reached. If you don't have kids, I would recommend you just wait for this movie to get thrown onto Disney Plus, because I think it's a good enough time to at least give it a shot on that. If you do have children though, then I would recommend you take them to go see this in the theaters. I think as a family, you guys would have a really good time with it. So there you have it. Those are all of my thoughts on the live action remake of Lilo and Stitch. What did you guys think about this movie? Let me know down in the comments below. I would love to read everything you guys have to say. Make sure before you get out of here to consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel as well for more movie reviews, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.